Alright everyone, we start off today talking about Rondesantis. Link in the description, archived of course. He appears to be firing a number of staffers, and it's not related to malaise within the campaign. We'll give him a break on the analysis on this one. It's related to apparently his campaign manager overstretching and hiring too many people, and so they were burning through money more quickly than they could possibly maintain. The problem is that a large number of people that donated to Ron DeSantis in the first few weeks, so you remember he had a massive fundraising haul. Honestly, it was impressive. Right after he announced, he blew past Donald Trump for that period of time. Unfortunately, a lot of those people made the maximum donation, and so they can't donate again. And the problem is that Ron DeSantis' core fan base, well, definitely hardened. I mean, you see a number of people on Twitter that are very gung-ho for him. In fact, Twitter feeds me that stuff on a regular basis, even from accounts that I don't follow and have no interest in, actually. A few of them I follow. The rest of them, for some reason, the algorithm definitely favors DeSantis fans over Trump fans. Despite having a 5-to-1 numeric superiority on Trump's side, it is a little bit weird. Elon Musk has expressed interest in DeSantis run, although he seems to be possibly changing his mind based on a few tweets he made recently. Anyway, the problem is that the interest seems to have dried up some, and so that initial surge has been followed by, more of a slow-paced campaign. Ron DeSantis had a confidential mailer, actually, a few days ago that I talked about yesterday, in which they'd said, basically, we're abandoning the Super Tuesday states. Our basic strategy at this point is just to focus on New Hampshire and Iowa, hope that we win one of those, and gain viability to go into Super Tuesday, thus leaving them a window of a couple of fucking weeks in order to actually campaign, including in his own home state, which happens to be Florida, a Super Tuesday state. Ron DeSantis is fundamentally, I think, just about done at this point. This doesn't say good things for his campaign. Now, you'll remember, some people say, well, that's because Styx is Cult 45. That's because Styx just has DeSantis derangement syndrome. Please look back through my videos. You can search for the topic of DeSantis in those, and see what I said for months and months in the wake of his re-election. I defended him. I defended his absence because he was helping care for his cancer-stricken wife, etc., etc., against the brain-dead liberals that were somehow finding fault with him for doing so, which I thought was ghastly in nature. I said that I would like to see him potentially as Trump's running mate, although Rand Paul is a better choice, and possibly a few others, DeSantis would have been a good running mate, for example. I said that I had no problem with him jumping into the race. I stated quite clearly for months that I thought DeSantis was perfectly fine as a candidate, that I preferred Trump, but in the case that Trump was, if he dies or something like that, if DeSantis were the nominee, I'd have no problem with that. And that if he won in a fair primary, I would have no problem with that, with the caveat that I didn't expect it to be a fair primary if Trump wasn't the nominee, because he was always so far out ahead. And of course, you do have to keep an eye out for shenanigans. Mitch McConnell does still have power, and unfortunately, within the party. But now, things have changed. He vetoed the so-called soft-on-crime bill that really only related to people expunging their records if they hadn't been found guilty of a crime anyway. He promoted HB 269. He decided to attack Trump in a real hammer-handed way, a real snaky way, right after his indictment, which he belatedly responded to. The rest of the field already had made their responses before DeSantis did. He simply makes too many mistakes. Here's my problem. It's not even really ideological. It's with DeSantis making mistake after mistake. When you have your campaign manager overstretching, burning through millions and millions of dollars, wasting it. You don't need to spend that money. So to the point where you now have about $3 million in the war chest for the general election. You've burned through all of that original donor cash. You got a surge. You got a surge in support. You got a surge in donations. You were riding high there for a few weeks. You were doing very well. You allowed your campaign manager to overstretch to the point where you burned through millions of dollars that could have been used to target the early states within the primary. You could have used them for ads in New Hampshire. You could have used them to prop up surrogates in Iowa or something. That would have given you more viability. But you made a mistake. You decided to delegate it to your campaign manager. Apparently other staff warned of this, and DeSantis did nothing. And so you've wasted millions of dollars, and you're running against Donald Trump, a man who, in theory, could sell a building right now in Shanghai, net $100 million, and use that to run for the rest of the primaries. In theory, Donald Trump could liquidate a couple of his properties and be all goddamn set, and it would be very difficult for any number of donors to come close to matching the amount of money. With that being run against in the primary, and you being 30 points behind at this point, which is where DeSantis is, and then going into a general with a relatively flush Joe Biden, because right now he's barely campaigning. He has a lean, streamlined campaign, which basically means he's effectively just sitting there doing nothing. He has effectively no staff to pay, and he still made $72 million. It's far short of what Trump made during his re-election bid. It's far short of what Obama made, and I think it's still short of what Bush made despite inflation, but it's still a decent amount of money. You would need, even if you had that original surge perpetually, you need 3-4 months to make that amount of money that was made in the same quarterly period by Joe Biden. Again, a man with very low enthusiasm among his voters, who is effectively not even bothering the campaign at the moment. He's not even begun to bother. Donald Trump, to his discredit, I think, is being a little bit too lackadaisical too. But Ron DeSantis has abandoned the Super Tuesday states, focusing only on a few of the starting states. Okay, that's fine if that's your decision. You can go with it. And I don't approve, by the way, of Trump voters saying DeSantis should just drop out and save his career. It's too late for that. Let him run. Let Ron run, and he'll run himself into the ground, I think, if this is any indicator. The problem is that you can't campaign at all in those or any other states unless you have money. You have to pay staffers. You have to pay for transport. You have to pay for X, Y, and Z. You have to buy ads and so forth. Are you going to be able to do that if $3 million is the only chunk of that that's not earmarked for the general? I mean, how long can your campaign even go on? You were the heir apparent. You were the easy second place finisher. DeSantis, if he doesn't make any mistakes, automatically at least gets second place in every state. He can stay in until the bitter end, gobbling up delegates in proportional states, and at the very least, he can appear at the convention, give a speech, etc., and he gets his. Trump either is reelected or isn't, regardless he doesn't run again, by the way, and then DeSantis potentially goes on to a 28 bid. The problem is that he's already burned through so much money that it's not necessarily going to be feasible for his campaign to continue unless donations pick up. I like how all these people brag about their grassroots small donations base. Well, a lot of those people gave the maximum amount. That's a considerable amount of money. I'm not going to donate, what is it now, $1,400 or something like that to a campaign, or $2,000. I just paid off my student loan debt. I'm willing to pay that off, but I'm not willing to pay thousands of dollars to a political candidate. I gave my Benjamin to Donald Trump, and I'll call it a day. Because he's rich anyway. He doesn't need quite as much funding. DeSantis, I think, in his overstretching, unfortunately has further undercut himself in his ability to actually get elected at all. You have to win the primaries before you go forth into the general, and I'm getting more and more of a suspicion, and other people have mentioned this, I'm more and more suspicious that his entire idea is just be there, be in a solid second place standing, and hope that Donald Trump gets disqualified or something like that. I would point out, if Trump is disqualified by the legal system and you happen to be Ron, the nominee, you cannot win, because a large proportion of MAGA will stay home or write in Donald Trump anyway. They're not going to vote for you. That's about all. Peace out.